Greetings and salutations. My name is, of course, Charles Q. Banks, and I'd like to welcome you to the White Wall side of the Book Den, and also, for that matter, the Anime Corner, in which I talk about all of my interests in Japanese media, manga, and anime. I just wanted to show you this White Wall side because I'm rather proud of it. I'm rather proud of these books. Books are a perfect decoration for anything in any room, and I'm rather proud of these shelves. So, that being said, today I am going to be talking about the internet sensation and overall sensation, One Punch Man, the web comic, the animated series, and of course the manga. In rather general and casual terms, I'm still a bit sick, so this won't be as in-depth as it possibly could be, because not One Punch Man, is a rather large topic. There is a lot of ground to cover, and a lot of content in the One Punch Man title. So, where did it all begin? Well, back in 2009, a Japanese man, a young man, who calls himself One, his pseudonym on the internet is One, O-N-E, in English, and he published himself the original run of the webcomic One Punch Man, which incidentally is said in Japanese in the Hepburnian way of speaking, One Pan Man, which is a play on words, not only of One Punch Man in kind of the Japanese way, but it's also a play on Anpan Man, which is one of probably the most popular children's superhero in Japan ever. A superhero with a jelly bean bun for a head. And so it's actually kind of a deconstruction, comedic parody of Anpan Man and all superheroes and stereotypes and tropes and traditions, both from Japan, mainly from Japan, but also from superheroes in America, because a lot of superheroes in Japan are based on superheroes in America. And, anime in general gets its inspiration from American Disney films. So, I was aware of One Punch Man back in 2014. Someone sent me a link to the webcomic, and so I read the first little issue, I guess you could call it that, of One Punch Man because my friend, who is a superhero fan, thought it was hilarious, and I too thought it was hilarious, at least in the dialogue and in the writing of it, having all kinds of parodies and comedic moments that harken back to Superman and ridiculous things that happen in American superhero comics, which I could appreciate, but also had a lot to do with the Japanese comics and superheroes and big figures like Goku, and the idea that most superheroes themselves are overpowered, and that's kind of the basis of One Punch Man, is that Saitama, the main character, is someone who can defeat any enemy, kill anything with a single punch with his red glove. And that kind of is the basis for all of the comedy throughout the entire webcomic. And so I read that and I was like, that's funny, but let me show you just the webcomic itself. As you can see, this is Saitama, One Punch Man, and he calls himself just an average hero, an average guy who serves as an average hero. And I'm not a big webcomic fan. I've not read much webcomic stuff. Let me just get that out of the way. And mainly for this reason, the animation, or what I should call the drawing of most webcomics, because they're so cheaply made and self-published, are generally like this. Very poorly drawn, very off-model, disproportionate, and just, cheaply done. And I can't get behind that, even though I think it's a very venerable medium, that of the webcomic, people can just get out there. Anyone can, with, MS Paint or whatever, draw something random, and if it's funny in the writing, then it will fly, even if the actual drawing is not that impressive. And I was not impressed. It was basically like, you know, just you look awful. You're an eyesore. Get out of my sight. As one of the One Punch Man characters actually says. Um, so, yeah, I was not impressed. It is very funny, and it's actually ongoing. The webcomic is still being written and drawn by one, and is still being published today. And I have to say that even though the beginning drawings are, I would call them pathetic, uh, it looks like someone, some like 12-year-old drew it. He has gotten better over time, and it's become very detailed and very sketchy. And I think that has become kind of the style of One Punch Man. It's meant to come off as cheaply done, and that's part of the irony of it. It's become this massive thing, this viral internet sensation, despite the fact that it's such a cheaply done thing. And the main character is, he has no idea where his powers came from. He just decided he wanted to be a superhero and trained so hard that he became bald and was able to defeat anything in one punch. And that's amazing, but it's ridiculous. Like, he is literally the cheapest superhero ever seen. His backstory is ridiculous. And so that's why it's become so famous. It's the underdog mentality coupled with just the ridiculousness of a superhero who has no flaws. And he's very dissatisfied with himself being able to defeat anything in one punch. He wants the thrill of a rousing battle, but he's never able to get it because one punch and the enemy is dead, and he's left standing in the wake of their destruction. And nobody really is able to appreciate him. He tries, and all of that said, there's kind of an interesting meta to this story. The world around One Punch Man is one that has been just flooded and filled with superheroes and supervillains, and the society kind of reflects that. There's a superhero association that, similar to, I guess, the Incredibles and to a certain extent Watchmen, probably was definitely inspired by them, in which everyone is aware of all the superheroes, and it's kind of like, the new celebrity. What new superhero is going to come out? Kind of reminiscent also of the more recent anime and manga series, My Hero Academia. So that's an interesting world in itself, I think, because these cities constantly just get leveled. People are constantly getting killed because these giant, massive monsters are just laying waste to towns and things just constantly. It's completely untenable. The world would not exist for long if there were these giant, massive creatures just destroying everything and killing everyone. But the Superhero Association is able to stem the tide by having a very well structured, band of superheroes that are classed by levels. And so Saitama actually gets involved with this superhero association, but since he didn't have the best writing skills, the best mathematics skills, and things like this, he wasn't able to become an S rank, or the highest ranking of superhero. Even though he's way more powerful than everyone else, he still got basically a C grade. And so again, that's hilarious. That's funny meta, and it's a really enjoyable thing. But that webcomics animation or drawing is just, I couldn't stand it. That being said, in let's see, when was it? Yusuke Murata began publishing the manga from June 2012 to the present, and he changed the webcomics drawing quality from abysmal webcomic to incredible, like highly detailed anime level or beyond anime level drawing and animation. Um, it's fantastic. The action scenes are just filled with emotion and just power. Their action lines constantly. The level of detail is amazing. I like look at that. That is just really amazing. Um, that's not even the best example of it. Uh, but yeah, I actually do love this art style. Um, and just oh my gosh, uh, Yusuke Murata just took the inspiration of the webcomic and went to the next level. I would call it the Nichijou principle, where with Nichijou, it's my everyday life basically, anime and manga series now that is about a bunch of children in high school and their humorous uh, talking and getting together, having tea and stuff, but it's animated out the wazoo, and it's to the level of being absolutely absurd, and it's one of the most beautiful anime I've ever seen, despite its subject matter being so ridiculous, over the top, and yet so mundane at the same time. And so I have real respect for that, just putting tons of effort and excellence into something that really doesn't quite deserve it. But I think Murata actually saw the potential for this webcomic to actually be a uh, a good addition um, to superhero fandom in general, and he pulled that off perfectly. The manga is really fun to read, and it actually gets a whole lot done in a very short amount of time. You can read the first volume in a few hours at most, um, and it's satisfying. This edition, by the way, is from Loot Crate, not sponsored, by the way, in any way, shape, or form. I just bought the Loot Crate, and this is what I got for it, and I'm rather happy about it. But and it's rather hilarious. Godzilla is eating Saitama's apartment, and he's running away with cup noodle in hand. Um, but the original manga had a different uh, front, a different cover to it, and I want to show you that now because it really looks a whole lot more professional. Um, I mean, you do get a really good idea of what you're getting from the animation, kind of better in this cover, but the original is just so epic. That's Saitama. It's perfect, and it really has that kind of American superhero style to it, and I think that's why it did so well in America in the first place. Is that it really has a lot of American sensibilities to it. It's a good entry level manga for anyone who wants to, start getting into manga. Um, like I remember um, when the anime came out and it began getting animated. Let's see, when did that happen? It was 2015, October 2015. It started to become animated and was really marketed for an American audience. And when that happened, the manga was put on American shelves to a degree it had never before seen. And there are currently only about 12 volumes out for One Punch Man in the manga. Um, and there are, of course, 12 episodes, or wait, no, 24 episodes to the anime. Um, and, well, let me just double check that. Okay. So yeah, there's currently one season. There's going to be another season. The first season is done by Madhouse. The second season by JC Staff, which is quite a crazy change. But yeah, okay, so yeah, there are 12 episodes and 6 little OVAs apparently. And yeah, so it's a pretty short anime, but the manga showed up on store shelves, um, and I remember going into Barnes and Noble and just seeing rows after rows, row after row of One Punch Man manga. The first, edition, well, the original with the original cover, that is, just everywhere. And it's like, whoa, this is actually gaining traction. And I remember hearing from people all over that it was successful and awesome and beautiful. The anime was just top notch. And I was like, I'm kind of allergic to hype. I whenever I hear people just raving about something, my response is, I'm gonna wait a few years. I don't care. I don't want to jump on the bandwagon. I just, if it's really good, then it will stand the test of time, and I don't have to waste my time watching something that may actually not be that great in the long run. So I actually didn't watch it until a year after its release in 2015. And so 2016 I started watching it about a year afterwards, and I enjoyed it. I can't say that I didn't enjoy it, but I believe that the hype that it got back in 2015, and even the hype that it gets for being the webcomic, is a bit absurd. The level to which it has gained popularity is rather I can't really relate to it. But then again, I'm a young man, but I'm not that young anymore. I'm not a 12-year-old who is just looking for something cool. Um, and One Punch Man is definitely a really cool series. And you can see just by the anime's intro the level of um, practical animation design has just it just again it went to another level. This is from the intro and is showing One Punch Man walking towards the screen after punching the living daylights out of a certain monster. And look at the level of detail there. And this isn't just the intro. This type of quality in animation remains true through the entire anime and doesn't wax or wane a bit. And that's the highest amount of praise that I can give towards this anime series. Is that it's just beautiful. It's just great to look at. It takes what was wrong, and the manga too. They take what was wrong with the original web series, which was it looked ugly as sin, and just made it so much better. And there's actually a comparison panel that compares the manga to um, the webcomic, and here it is just right now. And you can see on the left there is the manga, and on the right is the original webcomic. Same thing is happening, same basic panel, and you can see the level of detail, the level of effort that they took to make sure that it looked very similar and that it remained true to its origins, but it just improved on that. I keep wanting to call it animation, but that level of drawing is quite remarkable. So yeah, that's most of what I have to say about the series, the manga. Um, Positive, because the comedy that was in the original web comic really does shine through in every adaptation of the original story. The story, however, is rather weak. It's about Saitama gaining popularity, gaining friends, I guess, in the superhero association. And that's the storyline. Is he's a nobody who is way overpowered, and nobody is really giving him any credit. And he doesn't really want the credit. He just wants a good fight, and he's hoping that by joining the superhero association, he will be able to come up against bigger and greater foes. And throughout the entire series, whether it's the webcomic, the manga, or the anime, you are hoping to see Saitama come up against an enemy that he can actually exchange blows with, and that will be even better than the beautiful action scenes that you see throughout the entire series. And it's I have to say that the level of potentiality for amazing action scenes is out the wazoo. When Saitama actually meets a supervillain that he can actually exchange blows with, it will be absolutely stunning. Um, and he never does in the anime. It never happens in the anime. Again, like I said, the webcomic and the manga are still ongoing, so you might be able to see some of that later. But in the what is currently there, the one goal that you want to see Saitama come up against never comes to pass. Um, and that's rather disappointing, actually, because the comedy that is there is all based around him being overpowered. And it really relates to, like, other heroes like Goku, who is now kind of a god in the current series. And in One Punch Man, it shows you how kind of boring that can possibly be. Saitama actually says in one of the panels, being the strongest creature alive is actually pretty boring. And so yeah, it's a smart series. There's a lot of good, kind of intelligent humor, but there's a lot of really crude humor as well. There, for someone who actually is a Christian, someone who cares about what's in it, and wants to know what level of maturity and what audience this is for beforehand, I have to warn you out there that there is a lot of cussing, and not bad cussing. The F word is never dropped, but just street talk, it happens. And there is some over sexualization of certain characters, um, such as Mosquito Lady, as you can see. That's highly sexualized, um, to the extent that I think is too much. But again, one of the cool things about anime is that everything is almost too much. The action is way overboard. The comedy is really powerful, but also the negative sides, the oversexualization and the crudity, is also there. So I would recommend this for mature viewers and readers, and not really for little kids. It's for people who have been superhero fans for a long time, people like myself, people like my brothers and sister, and people in their 30s, millennials who grew up with the old stories will get a lot of the comedy here. But again, the comedy really falls flat if you're looking for anything more than this superhero is overpowered and he's sad about it. There's some really fantastic little scenes, like he's trying to kill this mosquito. He's able to destroy any villain with one swipe of his wrist, and yet he can't get this mosquito. He can't slap him. He can't catch it, um, and it's hilarious. It's a great scene, and that's funny. Yeah, sure, but I don't think that the comedy nor even the amazing visuals are enough to make this a great series. It's good. It's really good. And for someone who has been really put off by a lot of the, like, Avengers, um, they're just mediocre to me. Avengers was a mediocre good time to me. It was better than the average, but the average is very low these days for superhero movies. And so there are a lot of good movies out there, but they're just few and far between these days. And I can see a lot of franchises, trying to jump on the bandwagon and get a lot of money just by making it a superhero movie. And so I'm bored with the superhero movies of today. But One Punch Man was a real breath of fresh air. But that's really all it is to me. I can see myself really forgetting that it even exists sometimes. I've watched the anime twice, and I really enjoyed it, and it's really beautiful. But there's nothing more to it. The characters are very shallow. And I imagine that in the webcomic and in the rest of the manga, those characters actually have time to shine, but even in the anime, they really don't, And Saitama is shown as someone who doesn't really have a lot to him, which is funny and is enjoyable, but it's not really something that I myself would hold to a higher standard and say, yeah, this is great character development. So, all that being said, oh yeah, there's one little thing about One Punch Man and Dragon Ball Z, the argument on the internet, which I don't really think deserves a whole lot of time. There's an argument between who would win, Goku or Saitama, and I just have to address it because I've seen so much true rage coming through on the internet. Not just, oh, my superhero is better than yours, haha, or, but actually like, no, you're an idiot, you're stupid, you're ignorant, I hate you, because you don't believe that Goku would win, or because you don't believe One Punch Man would win against Goku, and it's like, just stop it. This is just a fun little debate. I think it's worth actually exploring for someone who loves superhero stuff. Like, who would win? Like, what are their power levels? That's fun to actually think about. But I mean, think about it. In the universe in with One Punch Man, if Goku and One Punch Man were to fight each other, One Punch Man would win. If One Punch Man was written um, with a crossover with Goku and the Dragon Ball Z writers wrote it, then Goku would win. These are both highly overpowered characters, and that is the point. And so, if they came together, either no one would win, or the one you want would win. There is no science to this, okay? Just saying. It's really a silly consideration, but people really get enraged by these little things, and just calm down, everyone. Just calm down. If Goku is your favorite character, and you believe that because the current story arc has made him literally impossible to kill, then sure, you can believe that he would win against One Punch Man. And for One Punch Man, I'm on the side of One Punch Man just because I like his character more. I didn't really like Dragon Ball Z. Dragon Ball Z is probably way higher on the list of in terms of quality of an anime and a storyline. But I enjoyed One Punch Man more than Dragon Ball Z because Dragon Ball Z, it really gets monotonous in terms of the fighting, and it's just a formula of uh, the underdog meets someone who he can't defeat who's evil, and then he trains, meets the it's the hero's journey. He meets the god figure and or the elder, becomes more powerful and trains, and then is able to defeat that other evil character, and then that evil character becomes the friend, and then there's another creature who comes and he fights against him because he's so overpowered, but then the creature defeats him and now he has to train and find another god figure, and it just repeats over and over. That being said, I think One Punch Man would win because One Punch Man is literally written to be able to defeat anyone in one punch. I haven't seen any indication that One Punch Man has ever been beaten in the mangas, and that he will ever be. He's not just a human. He can jump into space and survive it. He can receive a massive, like, he can be stomped by a 20-story, building-sized giant and be completely fine. So he's basically a superhero, a Superman with no weaknesses. Goku, on the other hand, before he became a god, definitely was able to be killed, and he was killed multiple times. So, if we're talking about the pre-godhood Goku, then Saitama would win. If you're talking post-god tier Goku, then who knows? It's up in the air because they're both overpowered. So, that's a realistic way to think about it, and if you like one or the other, you can vote for them. But it's not that serious, folks. Get over it. So, so yeah. Well, I guess that's all there is to say right now. If I think of something more, I'll add it in another video. So, thanks for watching. God bless, and I'll see you in the next one.